The autumn rain drummed against the windows of Kensington Palace as Prince William wandered through the lesser-known corridors of the residence. Kate was away visiting her parents, and the children were at school, leaving him with a rare moment of solitude. The palace, with its centuries of history, always seemed to whisper secrets from its walls, but today something felt different. William had been exploring the palace since childhood, yet there were still areas that remained mysterious to him. His footsteps echoed softly on the polished marble floors as he made his way toward the East Wing, a section that had been closed off for renovations years ago but somehow never completed. The workers had left abruptly one day, citing structural concerns, but no one had ever explained why the work never resumed. As he rounded a corner, William noticed something peculiar. Behind a large tapestry depicting the Battle of Hastings, there was a slight gap in the wall. Curious, he pushed the heavy fabric aside and discovered what appeared to be a door, painted the same color as the surrounding wall to make it nearly invisible. The door had no nameplate, no obvious purpose, and most intriguingly, it had a handle that looked far older than anything else in this section of the palace. The handle was made of tarnished brass, worn smooth by countless hands over the years. Strange symbols were etched around its base, symbols that William didn't recognize despite his extensive education in history and languages. He ran his fingers over the metal, feeling the weight of age and mystery. Something about this door called to him, as if it had been waiting patiently for him to find it. William glanced around the empty corridor. No staff members were nearby, no security cameras pointed in this direction. It was as if this corner of the palace existed in its own bubble, separate from the rest of the world. He remembered stories his grandmother, Queen Elizabeth, had told him about secret passages and hidden rooms in various royal residences. She had always spoken of them with a twinkle in her eye, leaving him wondering which stories were true and which were merely entertaining tales. The prince hesitated for a moment, his hand resting on the mysterious handle. Protocol dictated that he should inform palace security about his discovery, have the area properly investigated by experts. But something deeper, more instinctual, urged him forward. This felt personal, as if the door had been waiting specifically for him to find it. The brass felt warm under his palm, almost alive with possibility. Taking a deep breath, William made his decision. He would open the door himself, satisfy his curiosity about what lay beyond. If it turned out to be nothing more than an old storage room or forgotten servants' quarters, he would simply close it and report the discovery through proper channels. But if it was something more, something significant, he wanted to be the first to know. The hallway remained empty, the only sound the distant hum of palace life and the continued patter of rain against the windows. William gripped the handle firmly, feeling its weight and age. Whatever lay behind this door had been hidden for a reason, concealed from the world for years, perhaps decades. As he prepared to turn the handle, he couldn't shake the feeling that this moment would change everything. The brass was cool now under his touch, and William realized he had been standing there longer than he thought, lost in contemplation. The mysterious symbols seemed to catch the light differently, almost as if they were glowing faintly. He shook his head, telling himself it was just his imagination, but the feeling of anticipation continued to build. With one final glance down the empty corridor, William tightened his grip on the handle and began to turn it slowly. The mechanism was surprisingly smooth for something so old, turning without the creak or resistance he had expected. Whatever lay beyond this door, he was about to discover it. The handle turned completely and William heard a soft click as the locking mechanism disengaged. The door was ready to open, and Prince William was about to step into whatever mystery had been hidden away in this forgotten corner of Kensington Palace. His heart raced with anticipation as he prepared to push the door inward and reveal what had been concealed for so long. The moment of discovery was at hand, and nothing would ever be quite the same again. William pushed the door gently, and it swung open with surprising ease, revealing a narrow stone staircase that descended into darkness. Cool air drifted up from below, carrying with it the scent of age and something else he couldn't identify. The stairs were worn smooth by time, their edges rounded from countless footsteps over the centuries. Emergency lighting flickered on automatically as he stepped through the doorway, revealing a passage that clearly predated the current palace structure. The walls were made of rough-hewn stone, much older than the refined architecture of the main palace. As William descended carefully, his hand trailing along the wall for support, he noticed marks carved into the stone. Some appeared to be dates, others were initials, and still others were symbols he didn't recognize. The further down he went, the older the markings seemed to become. Some were so worn by time that they were barely visible, like whispers from the distant past. After what felt like dozens of steps, the staircase opened into a small chamber. The space was larger than William had expected, with a vaulted ceiling that disappeared into shadows above. Ancient wooden beams supported the structure, their dark wood gleaming in the artificial light. But what caught his attention immediately were the walls, which were lined with shelves containing hundreds of leather-bound books, rolled scrolls, and wooden boxes of various sizes. William approached the nearest shelf cautiously. The books were bound in leather that had darkened with age, their titles written in languages and scripts he could barely make out. Some appeared to be in Latin, others in what looked like Old English, and still others in scripts he didn't recognize at all. He carefully pulled out one volume, its leather binding soft and supple despite its obvious age. The pages were made of thick parchment filled with handwritten text and detailed illustrations. As he examined the book, William realized he was looking at what appeared to be a journal or diary. The writing was in English, but an archaic form that required careful reading to understand. The date on the first page made his breath catch in his throat. The journal was dated 1534, during the reign of Henry VIII. The author identified himself as Thomas Whitmore, describing himself as a keeper of royal secrets and confidential advisor to the crown. Setting the ancient journal aside carefully, William explored further into the chamber. More shelves revealed additional treasures, maps that showed England as it existed centuries ago, documents bearing royal seals he had only seen in history books, and correspondence between historical figures whose names were familiar from his studies. This wasn't just a storage room. It was a secret archive, a repository of royal history that had been hidden away from the world. In one corner of the chamber, William discovered a large wooden chest bound with iron straps. The lock was old but substantial, and beside it lay a small key on a chain. With trembling hands, he inserted the key and turned it. The lock clicked open with surprising ease, as if it had been waiting for this moment. Inside the chest, wrapped in silk cloth that had somehow maintained its vibrant color despite the centuries, were documents that made William's pulse quicken. The first document bore the unmistakable seal and signature of Queen Elizabeth I. The second was signed by Charles I, and beneath that, papers bearing the marks of monarchs whose names were etched in English history. These weren't copies or reproductions. They were original documents hidden away for reasons that were becoming increasingly intriguing. Each paper seemed to contain information that had never appeared in any history book William had ever read. As he carefully examined document after document, a pattern began to emerge. These weren't routine royal correspondences or standard historical records. They contained references to secret negotiations, hidden alliances, and decisions that had shaped the course of English history in ways that had never been publicly acknowledged. The archive contained evidence of the shadow history of the British monarchy, the secret decisions and private arrangements that had influenced centuries of royal rule. William found himself completely absorbed in the documents, losing track of time as he read about conspiracies, secret marriages, hidden heirs, and political maneuvering that would rewrite history books if it ever became public knowledge. Each page revealed another layer of complexity in the story of his family's legacy, showing him a side of royal history that had been carefully concealed from the world. The implications of what he was discovering were staggering. This archive contained secrets that could change public understanding of British history, revelations that could impact the monarchy's reputation and relationship with the people. As William continued to explore the hidden chamber, he began to understand that he had stumbled upon something far more significant than a forgotten storage room. He had found the secret heart of royal history, and now he faced the enormous responsibility of deciding what to do with these earth-shattering revelations. Among the treasures in the secret archive, one document stood out from all the others. It was newer than most, written in a hand that William recognized from his childhood, the distinctive writing of his grandmother, Queen Elizabeth II. The paper was modern, dated just 5 years earlier, and it was sealed with her personal seal rather than the official royal seal. William's hands trembled slightly as he broke the wax and unfolded what appeared to be a personal letter. The letter began with words that sent a chill down his spine. To my beloved grandson William, future King of England, if you are reading this, then you have discovered what I have spent my entire reign protecting. The Queen's familiar voice seemed to speak from the page, as William read her carefully chosen words. She explained that the secret archive had been maintained by the monarchy for over 4 centuries, a repository of truths too dangerous or complex for public consumption. Queen Elizabeth's letter continued, revealing that each monarch had contributed to the archive, adding their own secrets and discoveries to the collection. She wrote about the burden of knowledge that came with the crown, the weight of secrets that had to be carried in silence to protect the institution of the monarchy and the stability of the nation. Some truths, she explained, were too powerful to be released, capable of causing upheaval that would serve no one's interests. William learned that his grandmother had spent years organizing the archive, creating a comprehensive index of its contents and ensuring that future monarchs would understand both the treasures and the dangers contained within. She had hoped that he would be the one to discover it, believing that his modern perspective and strong moral compass would make him the right person to decide the archive's future. The letter contained specific instructions about which documents were safe to examine and which required extreme caution. Following his grandmother's guidance, William located a particular section of the archive that she had specifically prepared for him. Here he found documents that told the story of how various royal scandals throughout history had been managed, cover-ups that had protected the monarchy's reputation during turbulent times. He read about secret negotiations that had prevented wars, hidden diplomatic efforts that had saved thousands of lives, and personal sacrifices made by monarchs that had never been publicly acknowledged. One document particularly caught his attention, a detailed account of how his own parents' marriage difficulties had been carefully managed to minimize damage to the monarchy's reputation. The papers revealed the extent to which palace officials had worked behind the scenes, the strategies employed to control media coverage, and the personal cost that his father and mother had paid for the sake of the institution. Reading these intimate details of his family's private struggles gave William a new understanding of the pressures that came with royal life. But it was another set of documents that truly stunned him. Hidden in a separate folder were papers relating to his mother, Princess Diana. These weren't the usual official records or public statements, but private communications that revealed the full truth about the tensions between Diana and the royal establishment. William discovered letters written by his mother that had never been made public, expressing her fears, her hopes for her sons, and her deep love for them despite the difficulties she faced. The documents showed that Diana had known about the secret archive and had contributed her own writings to it, leaving messages specifically for William and Harry. Her words, written in her familiar handwriting, brought tears to his eyes as he read her hopes for their futures and her advice about navigating the complexities of royal life. She had wanted them to understand the full truth about their heritage, both its glory and its burden. As William continued reading his mother's contributions to the archive, he found detailed accounts of her charitable work that had never been publicized, secret donations she had made, and private meetings with world leaders where she had advocated for causes close to her heart. The papers revealed that Diana's influence had extended far beyond what the public knew, showing her as a sophisticated diplomat and strategist who had used her position to create real change in the world. The emotional weight of these discoveries was overwhelming. William found himself sitting in the ancient chair that his grandmother had described in her letter, the same chair where she had spent countless hours reading and organizing the archive's contents. He felt connected to generations of monarchs who had carried these secrets, understanding now the isolation that came with such knowledge. The archive contained the true story of his family's legacy, complete with its triumphs and failures, its noble sacrifices and difficult compromises. William realized that he was now the keeper of secrets that stretched back centuries, holder of knowledge that could change history if revealed, but might also destabilize the very foundations of the monarchy. His grandmother's letter had prepared him for this moment, but the reality of the responsibility was more profound than he had imagined. As he sat surrounded by the accumulated secrets of centuries, William began to understand that his discovery of the archive was not an accident, but a carefully orchestrated transition of responsibility from one generation to the next. Hours had passed in the hidden chamber, though William had lost all sense of time. The weight of the secrets he had uncovered pressed down on him like a physical burden. His phone had no signal in the underground archive, isolating him completely from the outside world. The silence was profound, broken only by the soft whisper of ancient paper as he turned pages and the distant sound of his own breathing. He felt as though he existed in a bubble outside of normal time and space. William found himself facing an impossible decision. His grandmother's letter had made it clear that he now had the authority to decide the fate of the archive. He could choose to maintain the centuries-old tradition of secrecy, protecting the monarchy and the nation from potentially destabilizing revelations. Alternatively, he could decide that the time had come for transparency, that the public deserved to know the full truth about their royal family's history. Regardless of the consequences, the documents before him told stories that would fascinate historians and shock the public. He had read about secret agreements between English monarchs and foreign powers, hidden clauses in treaties that had shaped international relations for centuries. There were records of royal children who had been quietly removed from the line of succession, their existence erased from official records to prevent succession crises. Some documents revealed that certain historical events attributed to chance or coincidence had actually been carefully orchestrated by royal intelligence networks. One particular file had shaken William to his core. It contained evidence that several major historical events, including some military conflicts and political upheavals, had been influenced or even prevented by secret royal intervention. The monarchy had wielded far more real power throughout history than the public understood, operating through networks of loyal nobles, intelligence operatives, and international contacts. This shadow influence had been used sometimes for noble purposes, sometimes for questionable ones, always with the stated goal of protecting British interests. William thought about Kate and how this discovery would affect her. She had married into the royal family understanding the public pressures and ceremonial duties, but she had no idea about the weight of secrets that came with the crown. He imagined her reaction to learning that their future would involve not just public service and royal protocol, but also the burden of keeping secrets that could reshape public understanding of British history. The thought of bringing her into this world of hidden knowledge both excited and terrified him. The practical implications were staggering. If William chose to reveal even a portion of the archive's contents, the resulting chaos could destabilize not just the monarchy, but the entire British political system. Public trust in institutions was already fragile in the modern era, and revelations about centuries of secret royal influence could trigger a constitutional crisis. Yet keeping these secrets felt like a betrayal of the democratic principles that modern Britain claimed to embrace. William remembered conversations with his father about the future of the monarchy, discussions about adapting to changing times and maintaining relevance in the modern world. His father had spoken about transparency and openness, about connecting with the people in new ways. Now William wondered if his father knew about the archive, if those conversations had been carefully crafted to prepare him for this moment, without directly revealing the truth. As evening approached outside, William realized he had been in the archive for nearly 6 hours. Kate would be returning from her parents' house soon, and the children would be home from school. He needed to make a decision about how to proceed, at least in the short term. The immediate question wasn't whether to reveal the archive's secrets to the world, but whether to share his discovery with Kate and what that conversation would entail. William carefully returned the documents to their proper places, following his grandmother's detailed organization system. He understood now why she had spent so much time cataloging everything. The archive was vast, and without proper organization, its secrets could easily be lost or misinterpreted. As he prepared to leave, he noticed another letter with his name on it, this one in his father's handwriting. King Charles had also left him a message, apparently knowing that this day would eventually come. His father's letter was shorter, but equally profound. Charles wrote about the loneliness of carrying such enormous secrets, the way the weight of hidden knowledge affected every decision and every relationship. He warned William about the temptation to share these burdens with others, explaining that each person brought into the circle of knowledge became another soul carrying the same heavy responsibility. Charles also offered practical advice about managing the archive and maintaining its security. Reading his father's words, William realized that his entire family had been shaped by the existence of these secrets, even though he had been unaware of them. Decisions that had seemed arbitrary or puzzling now made sense when viewed through the lens of hidden knowledge. His father's sometimes distant demeanor, his grandmother's careful choice of words in private conversations, even certain policy positions taken by the monarchy, all of it had been influenced by the secrets contained in this underground chamber. As William prepared to climb the stone stairs back to the normal world, he felt fundamentally changed. The young man who had discovered the hidden door that morning was gone, replaced by someone who understood the true complexity of royal responsibility. The archive had shown him that being a monarch meant more than ceremonial duties and public service. It meant being a guardian of secrets that could reshape history if revealed or preserved. The handle he had turned that morning had opened more than just a door. It had opened his eyes to a reality he never could have imagined. William emerged from the hidden archive as the sun was setting, his mind reeling from everything he had discovered. He carefully concealed the door behind the tapestry, ensuring that no trace of his visit remained visible to casual observers. The normal sounds of palace life, staff members going about their duties, the distant laughter of children playing in the gardens, seemed surreal after hours spent in the timeless silence of the secret chamber. He felt like a traveler returning from another world. Kate arrived home just as William was making his way back to their private quarters. She greeted him with her usual warm smile, chattering about her day with her parents and sharing amusing stories about their conversations. William found himself studying her face intently, memorizing every detail before their lives changed forever. She looked so carefree, so unburdened by the weight of royal secrets. Part of him wanted to preserve that innocence, to protect her from the knowledge that had fundamentally altered his perspective on their future. During dinner with the children, William struggled to maintain normal conversation. George and Charlotte excitedly told him about their school day, but their voices seemed to come from a great distance. He kept thinking about the documents he had read, about the generations of royal children who had grown up knowing they would one day inherit not just a crown, but a collection of secrets that could reshape history. When would he need to tell his own children about the archive? How young was too young to bear such knowledge? After the children were in bed, Kate noticed William's distracted demeanor. She curled up beside him on their private sofa, studying his face with the intuitive understanding that came from years of marriage. She could always tell when something significant was weighing on his mind, and tonight was different from his usual concerns about royal duties or public appearances. There was a depth to his thoughtfulness that she hadn't seen before, a gravity that suggested something fundamental had changed. William faced a moment of truth. His grandmother's letter had emphasized that sharing the archive's secrets was a decision that could never be undone. Once Kate knew, she would carry the same burden forever. Yet his father's letter had also mentioned the profound isolation that came with keeping such enormous secrets alone. William realized that if he intended to rule alongside Kate as equal partners, she deserved to know the full scope of what that partnership would entail. Taking Kate's hands in his, William began to speak carefully. He told her about his discovery of the hidden door, about the ancient staircase in the secret chamber filled with centuries of royal secrets. He watched her expression change from curious amusement to growing amazement as he described the scope of what he had found. Kate's eyes widened when he mentioned the documents bearing the signatures of historical monarchs, her journalistic instincts immediately recognizing the magnitude of such a discovery. William showed Kate his grandmother's letter, watching her face as she read the Queen's words about the burden of royal secrets and the responsibility of protecting the monarchy. Kate read slowly, occasionally looking up at William with questions in her eyes. When she finished, she sat in stunned silence for several minutes, processing the implications of what she had learned. The woman who had married a prince was learning that she had actually married the future guardian of centuries of hidden history. The conversation that followed lasted deep into the night. Kate asked thoughtful questions about the archive's contents, about the nature of the secrets William had discovered, and about what this meant for their future as monarchs. William shared some of the less sensitive revelations, describing documents that showed the monarchy's hidden influence on historical events and the complex web of secrets that had shaped British history for centuries. Kate's reaction surprised William with its maturity and understanding. Rather than being overwhelmed by the enormity of the secrets, she approached them with the analytical mind that had made her successful in her previous career. She understood immediately that the archive represented both an enormous responsibility and a potential source of power. The knowledge contained within those ancient walls could be used to guide future decisions or, if mishandled, could destroy the monarchy entirely. As they talked, William realized that sharing this burden with Kate was already changing how he felt about it. The isolation he had experienced in the archive began to lift as they discussed the implications together. Kate's perspective helped him see angles he hadn't considered, questions about how to use the knowledge responsibly, and how to ensure that future generations would be prepared for this responsibility. Her presence transformed the overwhelming burden into a shared challenge. Kate asked to see the archive herself, to understand fully what William had discovered. They agreed that she would visit the hidden chamber the following day, while the children were at school. William would guide her through the most important documents, helping her understand the organization system that their grandmother had created. The thought of returning to the archive with Kate beside him filled William with both anticipation and apprehension. As they prepared for bed, Kate held William close, both of them understanding that their lives had changed irrevocably. They were no longer simply a royal couple preparing for future ceremonial duties. They were now the keepers of secrets that spanned centuries, guardians of knowledge that could reshape public understanding of British history. The archive had revealed the true nature of royal responsibility, and they would face that responsibility together. William fell asleep that night feeling less alone than he had since his discovery that morning. Kate's willingness to share this burden, her thoughtful questions and mature response to such overwhelming revelations, confirmed what he had always known about his wife's strength and wisdom. Together, they would decide how to honor the trust that previous generations had placed in them while determining what role these ancient secrets should play in their modern monarchy. The next morning arrived gray and misty, as if the weather itself reflected the gravity of what was about to unfold. After seeing the children off to school with their usual morning routine of breakfast and gentle chaos, William and Kate found themselves alone in the palace corridors. Kate had dressed practically, wearing comfortable shoes and clothes suitable for exploring dusty archives, though nothing could have truly prepared her for what she was about to experience. William led Kate through the winding corridors toward the East Wing, his heart racing with anticipation. Sharing the physical space of the archive felt even more significant than sharing its secrets through conversation. As they approached the tapestry that concealed the hidden door, William paused to explain the historical significance of the artwork itself, noting how even this concealment had been carefully chosen to blend seamlessly with the palace's existing decor. When William pushed aside the heavy tapestry and revealed the hidden door, Kate gasped audibly. The reality of seeing the concealed entrance made everything suddenly tangible, in a way that their late-night conversation had not. She ran her fingers over the ancient brass handle, tracing the mysterious symbols that William had described. The metal felt warm under her touch, just as it had for William, and she experienced the same sense of anticipation mixed with apprehension. Descending the stone staircase together, Kate marveled at the age of the construction. Her background in art history helped her appreciate the architectural details that William had missed. Noting the style of stonework and the way the passage had been constructed to remain stable for centuries, she observed how the emergency lighting had been carefully installed to preserve the historical integrity of the space, while ensuring safety for modern visitors. When they reached the archive chamber, Kate's breath caught in her throat. The sight of centuries-old documents carefully preserved and organized was overwhelming, even with William's detailed descriptions fresh in her mind. She approached the nearest shelf with reverence, understanding immediately that she was in the presence of irreplaceable historical artifacts. The scope of the collection was staggering, representing knowledge that had been accumulated over hundreds of years. William guided Kate to the most significant documents, beginning with his grandmother's letter that had started this journey of discovery. Watching Kate read Queen Elizabeth's words for herself, seeing her process the weight of responsibility being passed down through generations, William felt a renewed sense of connection to his family's legacy. Kate's questions were thoughtful and practical, focusing on how the archive had been maintained and what systems were in place to preserve its contents. The document that affected Kate most profoundly was Princess Diana's contribution to the archive. Reading the private thoughts and reflections of William's mother, written specifically for her sons to discover someday, brought tears to Kate's eyes. Diana's words about love, duty, and the challenges of royal life resonated deeply with Kate, who had struggled with similar issues during her own adjustment to royal life. The connection between past and present felt immediate and personal. Kate spent considerable time examining the organizational system that Queen Elizabeth had created, understanding intuitively that maintaining the archive's integrity would require the same attention to detail. She asked William to show her the cataloging system, the security measures, and the procedures for adding new materials. Her systematic approach impressed William, who realized that Kate's methodical nature would be invaluable in managing this enormous responsibility. One section of the archive particularly fascinated Kate: documents relating to royal women throughout history. She discovered letters and diaries from queens and princesses who had faced challenges similar to her own, women who had navigated the complexities of public duty while maintaining private lives and personal relationships. These personal accounts provided insights into royal life that no history book had ever captured, showing the human side of figures who had been reduced to historical footnotes. As Kate explored deeper into the archive, she began to understand the full scope of the secrets that had been preserved. Documents showing the monarchy's hidden influence on historical events, records of secret negotiations that had prevented conflicts, evidence of charitable works that had never been publicized. The cumulative effect was staggering. She realized that public understanding of British history was incomplete, missing crucial elements that had been carefully concealed for centuries. The emotional weight of the discovery began to affect Kate as the hours passed. She found herself sitting in the same ancient chair where William had processed his own revelations, surrounded by the accumulated secrets of generations. The responsibility of deciding what to do with this knowledge felt enormous. But Kate's natural strength and wisdom helped her approach it systematically, rather than being overwhelmed by its magnitude. William watched Kate navigate this life-changing experience with admiration and love. Her thoughtful questions, her careful handling of the ancient documents, her intuitive understanding of the archive's significance, all of it confirmed his belief that she was the right partner to help him shoulder this enormous responsibility. Together, they were stronger than either could be alone, better equipped to make wise decisions about the future of these centuries-old secrets. As their time in the archive drew to a close, Kate and William sat together in contemplative silence. They both understood that they had crossed a threshold from which there was no return. The knowledge they now shared would influence every decision they made as future monarchs, every policy they supported, every public statement they issued. The archive had revealed the true complexity of royal leadership, showing them that their future roles would involve far more than ceremonial duties and public service. Kate's final words in the archive surprised William with their clarity and determination. She spoke about the need to honor the trust of previous generations, while adapting to modern expectations of transparency and accountability. Her vision for how to balance these competing demands gave William hope that together, they could navigate the challenges ahead, using the wisdom of the past to guide their decisions for the future. In the weeks that followed their discovery of the secret archive, William and Kate's relationship deepened in ways they hadn't expected. The shared knowledge of centuries-old royal secrets created an intimate bond between them that transcended their previous understanding of partnership. They found themselves having quiet conversations late at night, discussing the implications of what they had learned and how it would shape their approach to future royal duties. Kate proved to be an invaluable partner in managing the archive's secrets. Her background in art history and her natural organizational skills helped her develop a new cataloging system that would make the collection more accessible to future generations. She spent hours studying the preservation techniques that had kept the documents intact for centuries, working with palace conservators to ensure that the archive would survive for future monarchs to inherit. The couple made several return visits to the hidden chamber, each time discovering new layers of meaning in the documents they had initially read. Kate found particular value in the personal writings of royal women throughout history, using their experiences to better understand her own role and the challenges she would face. These historical accounts provided guidance that no modern advisor could offer, showing her how previous generations had balanced public duty with personal fulfillment. William and Kate decided to begin adding their own contributions to the archive, Following the tradition established by their predecessors, they created detailed records of their charitable work that hadn't been publicized, documented private meetings with world leaders where they had advocated for important causes, and wrote personal reflections about their experiences as modern royals. These additions ensured that future generations would understand the full scope of their impact in the evolution of the monarchy in the 21st century. The discovery of the archive also influenced how William and Kate approached their public duties. Armed with knowledge about how previous monarchs had navigated crises and challenges, they felt better equipped to handle the complexities of modern royal life. They could see patterns in how the monarchy had adapted to changing times throughout history. Learning from both the successes and mistakes of their predecessors, one of the most significant changes was in their relationship with King Charles. Without directly revealing their discovery, William and Kate began to notice subtle signs that suggested their father knew about the archive's existence. Certain comments he made in private conversations, particular books he recommended, specific historical references he used, all began to take on new meaning. The family dynamic shifted as unspoken understanding replaced hidden knowledge. Kate's transformation was perhaps the most remarkable aspect of their shared discovery. The woman who had once worried about making mistakes in her royal role now carried herself with quiet confidence, understanding that she was part of a tradition that stretched back centuries. She began to see her public appearances and charitable work in a new light, recognizing that even seemingly small actions could have historical significance when viewed through the lens of royal influence. The couple also made important decisions about when and how to share this knowledge with their children. Following the guidance found in the archive, they agreed that George, as the future heir, would need to learn about the secrets gradually, beginning with general concepts about royal responsibility and slowly introducing more specific knowledge as he matured. Charlotte and Louis would also be prepared, understanding that supporting the monarchy meant protecting its most sensitive secrets. William and Kate developed protocols for maintaining the archive's security while ensuring its accessibility to future generations. They created backup systems for the most important documents, established procedures for adding new materials, and wrote detailed instructions for their successors. The archive became not just a repository of historical secrets, but a living collection that would continue to grow and evolve with each generation. The emotional impact of their discovery continued to resonate in their daily lives. Simple moments, reading bedtime stories to their children, attending state functions, meeting with government officials, were infused with new meaning as they understood their place in the long continuum of royal history. They felt connected to every monarch who had come before them, part of an unbroken chain of guardianship that stretched back centuries. As months passed, William and Kate found that the burden of the archive's secrets had become manageable through sharing. What had initially felt overwhelming when carried alone became a source of strength when shouldered together. They realized that this was perhaps the most important lesson the archive had taught them, that the monarchy's greatest strength came not from individual rulers, but from the institution's ability to adapt and survive through partnership and shared responsibility. The hidden door that William had discovered that rainy autumn day had indeed changed everything, but not in the way he had initially feared. Rather than becoming a burden that isolated them from others, the archive's secrets had brought them closer together and connected them more deeply to their family's legacy. They understood now that being royal meant more than public service and ceremonial duties. It meant being custodians of history itself, guardians of knowledge that would shape the future of the monarchy for generations to come. Looking back, Kate often marveled at how a simple turn of an ancient handle had transformed their understanding of their destiny. The archive had revealed that their love story was part of a much larger narrative, one that had been unfolding for centuries and would continue long after they were gone. In accepting the responsibility of the archive's secrets, they had found their true purpose as future monarchs and partners in one of history's most enduring institutions.